All right, New York Giants draft recap. I think some interesting picks. I actually really liked this draft. I thought at least the first four selections I thought were very good. Couple of question marks as well. What you see on the screen, but again, when we're getting to question marks at picks 209. Not going to be as concerned about it, but we'll get there in a second. What you see on the screen, the chart, it's every player they drafted, what position they play, where they were drafted, and then finally where they are on the consensus big board. Where were they projected to be drafted? So first, Deonte Banks was picked 24th. He was projected to be 20th. I think this is a good, really good pick by the Giants. I think that, I'm not sure if it was a pick for need or not, but it was a good player and worth that pick anyway. So I don't mind if you're drafting for need if you're also getting a player who's worth that selection, And I think Deonte Banks is absolutely worth that selection. I think they could use, again, I think there's plenty of holes on that roster. They could, plenty of players they could add to that roster to make it better. But someone like Banks, very fast, runs a 4.3, which is at the cornerback position, definitely something you should look towards because that's a great predictor of future success. Guys who get drafted in the first round who run 4.3s rarely bust. They typically are very good players. So that's exciting to see if you're a Giants fan. I would also say he moves well. His speed makes up for some issues. He does have some issues. A bit of a slower reaction time. But at the same time, he can get away with it because he is so fast. He can outrun those problems and come back if he does get a little bit out of position. In college, he kind of made a conscious effort to give up stuff underneath. That's something worth noting about him. So sometimes you'll see some college tape of him getting beat, but it was almost a design by the coaching staff and by him to do that. Again, bit older, 23 years old, not really a run stopper, but as a whole, I'm a fan of that selection. So then let's move on, though, because it's not just one pick. Plenty of picks matter in the draft. We then have John Michael Smith. Some people really liked him, and I can see why. I wasn't blown away by his tape personally, but he does have good analytics, and that's something that you got to look at when you look at offensive linemen is the analytics. On top of this, he was projected to go 40th. He falls to 57th. A lot of times when a center falls like that, it's simply because teams say, well, we don't need a center, so we're not going to draft one. But again, you can figure it out. You can make it work. You can figure out what position they're going to play and just get a good player, for them. I think they could use a center. So that helps as well. It is a position that you can add. To me, this is kind of just a good situation as he's able to fall to you. I know a lot of people wanted a wide receiver, but hey, you still got a wide receiver, and a wide receiver many felt like could have been a second round pick, an early second round pick. You get him with pick 73. So their first three picks, they get three top 40 players with the consensus, according to the consensus big board, despite only having one top 50 pick, which is pretty good. Jalen Hyatt, someone who is, really fast receiver, doesn't have the best route running. I didn't think this was a great wide receiver class, but I'm a little surprised that he fell as much as he did because, he's only 176 pounds at 6 feet tall. I wonder if that concerns some teams a little bit. Definitely feels like he's a bit of a raw prospect, but my old expression is never let a day two go by of the draft without selecting at least one receiver or safety. They get a receiver here, and it's a position group that they desperately needed to improve upon. So definitely another good pick. So right off the bat, are there any home runs here? I don't know, but it feels like there's high batting average here, getting a lot of doubles potentially by the Giants, which at the end of the day, that's what you want to do here. Typically you're not going to get a star when you don't pick in the top 23. So get a lot of players who look like they're going to be just good players, and these feel like 3 starters right away. And it's not like they had a ton of draft capital. So that's really impressive that they were able to pull this off, in my opinion. And honestly, Eric Gray, running back, selected at pick 172, he's going to be a contributor for them. They have obviously Saquon and they have Matt Breida, but I think that Eric Gray could be a day one backup running back right away. He's someone who's going to get carries. He's someone who's going to be a contributor. So, once we're getting into pick 172, all you're looking for are guys who can just come in and contribute. And this is why I like not drafting a running back early, which they were never going to do. They have Saquon, but, it's why, like, in just a general philosophy of you don't draft a running back early, you draft the running backs late because you can still get guys like Eric Gray who should be pretty good. I mean, he's someone who, a lot of people like. He was 139th on the consensus big board. So, again, 4 picks in, huge fan of this draft. The last few picks, I'm not going to freak out on too much because, again, we're talking about players who there were 200 players selected above them. But, again, hey, let's not forget that Brock Purdy was just last draft was selected as Mr. Irrelevant as the last pick in the draft. So, definitely, without a doubt, it's still worth making sure that you play it out and make smart decisions there. Trey Hawkins and Jordan Riley, they just didn't show up on the consensus big board. I'm not sure if they just weren't on the consensus big board or if there was a mistake there. I'm going to bet it's just that they weren't really on the consensus big board, but regardless, that's where they are. This is, these are a couple guys who their projections were undrafted free agent from what I'm reading on like NFL.com. So again, my guess is these are, my guess with Trey Hawkins, every time something like this happens, I always think, wonder if you're a special teams guy. Wonder if that's what you're doing here. They like someone who maybe can come in and play special teams. A little bit early to do that at 209, but just that was a questionable pick. Tall corner at 6'2", that's interesting, but as a whole, I can't say I've done a ton of draft evaluation on Trey Hawkins. That's just what I've read up about him. Jordan Riley, another guy who feels like he's going to be more of a, just a depth guy. You do see this with interior defensive linemen, is to kind of just get thrown in because you need so many guys to play that position. You need so many different bodies in there, so a lot of times those guys get drafted in round 6 and 7 just because they need another body in there, so that's what they're doing there. And then Jaravius Owens, who is a guy who, again, wonder if this is this is a special teams type situation, who maybe, hopefully, can also come in and be a depth guy if necessary. I will say this, while they were only 247th on the consensus big board, NFL.com projected them to be a 4th rounder. So, okay, there's some people that like Owens a little bit better than the consensus does, and maybe he could be more than just a special teamer, but if not, at least he could play special teams, which is nice to see. So, as a whole, I'm going to say this is a good draft. Couple of nitpicks towards the end, but again, if you miss on some of your 7th rounders, I can live with that. I want you to hit on your top 4 picks, which, pick 172 isn't even a 4th rounder there. That's a 5th rounder. But, hitting on those is really what you want to do, which I think they did. And I think this could be a really good draft. I don't know if it's going to be a franchise-altering draft necessarily, but I think it's going to help them for a team who's trying to build off of a good season last year. So, yeah, those are my thoughts about the Giants. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.